Oh, hello. Welcome to the kids' company today. Got the audience here looking at what they're looking at. God knows what they're looking at. So what we're going to fight for is a country that knows what they're doing. Yeah, so they said, oh, we haven't heard of Parliament. No, they said they haven't heard of Parliament because what they hadn't heard of was the Prime Minister. So I said, well, how do you come up with that? I said, you've had about 28 Prime Ministers. And this particular person said, well, I'm sorry, we just don't want to know. We don't want to know. And they said, I said, if you wanted me to play the piano, he said, you're not going to talk about the war, are you? So you're not going to talk about the war. I mean, what do you talk about? So I said to him, well, can I talk about Schumann? He said, well, why not? I said, well, Schumann was Germany. Oh, yes, he said, that was the war I was referring to. He said, you're not going to talk about the Battle of the Somme, are you? I said, no. You're not going to talk about the 50,000 dead in the first 3 days, are you? No. You're not going to talk about the massacre and the invention of the tanks that they're done, are you? No. No, you're not going to talk about... I said, I'm not going to talk about any of that. I'm not going to talk about it with you. I refuse, point blank. So it came to the point where I tried to explain. I said to him, have you got any musical heritage? You know, if we're going to listen to you on the piano, you've got any musical heritage? So he said, well, I had a father in the fire brigade once. I thought, well, that's very helpful. You know, I'm sure when you play Handel's water music, they just love you. So anyway, we elected to not tell any of the stories of Schumann because of the fact that he was German. And so I said, well, what about that guy, Vogel? And they said, well, we haven't heard of that Prime Minister. I didn't think he'd become Prime Minister. I said, that isn't Bull. I said, that's Bull. No, they said, no. We thought, they said, you're talking about Bird. I said, oh, Bird, yes, he was a composer under Queen Elizabeth I, I thought. But he basically went out with the Spanish Armada. Oh, yeah. There I go again, dear. Spanish War, yes. Now, why am I not allowed to be so beastly to the Spanish? When they had that guy, what was his name? Was he Genoese or Portuguese? I mean, what was he that discovered America? I mean, call me old-fashioned. So they said, right, you're going to introduce this piece. And the pianist is going to bring some light to who was going to be Prime Minister in as it were, the Queen's bedchamber. So they sort of said, well, what are you talking about? I said, are you aware of the fact that they claim, and there's some discrepancy about this, that there has been a parliament is it England? I don't know. I don't recognise it much. There's been a parliament in England since the 13th or 14th century. So we understand, don't we, that is from the time of about Edward I. So they said, well, if you talk about that is absolutely fine. We have no objection to you talking about that. And maybe, maybe they said, I can then play on the piano the versions of as it were, the assault on Westminster by the guy that was creating so much havoc with France, and explain that they made the Magna Carta, didn't they, King John, by mistake in 1215 because basically nobody could understand it. Like much of the laws now, I'm not surprised you don't understand who is the Prime Minister. So kids, your granny went up the road to buy a piano or find the money. The Polish gentleman hadn't got any money at all, and said that it had been on a downward slide from the trombone concerto by I forget who it was. Probably playing the accolade, I should think. But anyway, yes, so we didn't mention the war of the invasion of William the Conqueror, so we managed not to mention that one. We didn't mention the one of the 14th century, which was the build-up to Agincourt, which, as you know, Jill, was last week, the Battle of Agincourt. Did anybody know that? No. And a great victory, wasn't it, for Henry V? Yes, it was absolutely marvellous. He was sent back home with his tail between his legs, back to England, had no political victory over France at all. He was basically dragged back kicking and screaming. They said, well, yes, as long as you don't concentrate on the annihilation by the longbows. We said, they don't mind you talking about the war. That one. So we won there, viewer. And then this person, they said, well, who was Bull? I said, well, Bull was John Bull, which was one of the greatest composers under Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth I of England, who you know became Queen in 1558. And she lasted until 1603. We don't last forever, viewer, you know what I mean? You've got to tell these kids. It's like the bank you went to get some money on. I mean, they won't be there, will they, next week? And next year, it was going to be the celebration of the Battle of Verdun. Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't going to mention that. So anyway, we, or the year after, the year after. So what really happened to the funds, Granny's money, that was going to buy this baby grand, but you were told that, you know, there was no such thing as fairies at the end of the garden. I mean, what are you going to do about it? I mean, we've got a pianist here, let's get to the point. We've got a pianist here today who's going to bring you the music which is the result of the American Revolution, which we mustn't talk about. The fact that even 100 years later in the American Civil War, this particular composer had gone to the South to study the music of the Black South, which the French and so many parties, the French and the Austro-Hungarians and all the different tribes and everything, they all had to amalgamate in what called Confederation of States. The moment, doesn't it, you start talking about John Bull, or you start talking about Schumann and John Bull, the Englishman, and you say, ah, yes, but hold on a minute, he had to go off to, what is it, Antwerp? Somebody like that. And he was appointed to Gresham College, by the way. He was a great organist, John Bull. And you just love to hear it. So I believe our pianist is going to play one of those pieces this afternoon. And then we're looking at the Les Environs, the proximity, oh yes, that was a failure, wasn't it? Martin de Rais, was it in 1627, under King Charles I, where, was it the Duke of Buckingham or something, failed to manage to stop the onslaught of the Protestants in so-called Protestants in La Rochelle, and failed to stop it or something, and so that was a misadventure, wasn't it? So, yeah, you asked me why, oh yeah, the pianist this afternoon is going to talk about and play to you, as if it were, the pianist is going to tell you the true story of the parrot that was making approaches to Parliament to try to arrange to become the Prime Minister for a relatively shorter office than the next half a century, viewer. And I believe that the latest Prime Minister that did allow this, or did then anyway, said, that is okay, because I won't be Prime Minister after, was it next week or next decade? I forget what it was. They said, so it's okay, don't talk about the war. I said, can we talk about the English Civil War? They said, oh, well, that's okay, isn't it? Because that, we understand that. So I said, yes. I said, are you a royalist? He said, oh, yes, very much a royalist. I said, yes, great. Well, apparently, I said, are you a supporter of Oliver Cromwell? He said, yes. I said, he was a Lord Protector, wasn't he? I said, yes, that's right, fine. I said, well, are you aware that they massacred Oliver Cromwell after he had died, and they hated him so much they dug his remains up from Westminster Abbey and had them disinterred? Did you really realise that what you call a royalist, they beheaded in the name of King Charles I in 1649? So the pianist said to me, how did you know what I was going to play? I said, well, I had no idea. So this is a story, the true story of how the Emperor of Japan, or was it China, came about to see the, as you know, very recently, to see this Chinese, like parrot, go to ask if they could be Prime Minister for the afternoon, because they wanted to, well, I'll leave it to the pianist to tell you what they wanted to do. But doesn't sound kosher to me. Anyway, we've managed not to mention the Germans. We've managed to be inclusive over the Spanish, except I believe that the pianist has something to say to you, something about that. Something about there not being any Spanish music. Well, I mean, viewer, can you be surprised? Now, where the missing millions went to from Granny's attic, you know, I mean, Granny was given a grant in, was it 2001? 2002, she had some millions more. £46 million of public money. The Prime Minister says he is disappointed. Disappointed, Sir John Chilcott's inquiry. I mean, you say you don't know who is the Prime Minister. I'm not surprised. I mean, I thought he was the head of the corporate... I thought he was the bank manager. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But anyway, so on the question of the prince and the pauper, yes, was that the Black Prince who went off to fight in the Teutonic War? They had enough with the fighting of Palestine, hadn't they? Oh, we'll talk about the war. No? Right, so here we go, friends. We're going to listen now to the pianist who is going to play you a piano, probably which Granny's money was well spent. And I'm sure you have listened to Granny playing it on the one that she gave you much for nothing. But I leave that one to her to describe. Meanwhile, we've got our pianist here, whose name will, let's just call him British Bird. British Bird, and the beginning of the birth of Puffin. Puffin the Mule. He was a great speaker for the, as you know, the Iraqi, or mustn't talk about the Iraqi war because they haven't got through to the finding out how all that began. No, we've never heard of the Prime Minister before that one either. So anyway, next week, what was going to happen next week? I don't know what we've got on the agenda the next week, viewer, but one thing for sure is you will not find the money for that trombone, because I believe that the Polish gentleman down the road has spent it. And we're waiting for an independent inquiry into what was blown on the trombone before they blew the coffers of civilization that they called empire. Now, that isn't a war, viewer, that is a culture. And we're not talking about the war when we're talking about the disappropriation of the state of the Church of Rome to the Lutheran people, the Protestants. We're not talking about anything religious like the Mormons or the Christians or the Jews or the Gentiles. No, the problem is, viewer, you've got to buy a piano, and how do you know whether a Smith and Company is any good? I mean, to be honest with you, I wouldn't have a clue. Why do you ask me? Here is our pianist, Monsieur Bird.
to enter Parliament, and few have denied the access who have the power of attorney. But there were 5 knights of the king who lost all that they had recovered in the war. And yet you judge what is a good piano. Why do you think it is so marvelous when you have lost your empire onto the realm of foolishness? I don't know. Once an emperor. This emperor, she said, I am here in the power of the Almighty. And the crowd said, prove it. Another emperor said, they call me by the name of Jesus. But too many are called Jesus, they said. You cannot be Jesus, how do you know that you are? I say, pronounce a miracle to prove it. Then we may listen to you. If you don't, tell us what you're going to do tomorrow, we will not bid. So you think you are so great? Yes, I do. I've proven it. So show me the King of England, and I will show you a fool. But you can prove that you are not, if you will give me your crown for an emperor. they showed this emperor that they were not fools, or they thought they were not. And this emperor said, can you play this on a piano? And the Prime Minister said, we are not interested in people who do not work. We are interested in people who do only work. And they said to this impostor in Parliament to stand up and be counted. Oh, you who know so much, you think you know it all. Oh, what about you? You're not even wearing a tie. Not even wearing a shirt. My friend, you are in the cafe. You are representing Parliament. What is Parliament? But a shop of fools. I know it, but I'm just not the Prime Minister for nothing, you know. One for the money, two for the love. Well, you can do what you like, but don't try to my blue suede shoes. Leather goes before a fool, but not these Tory shoes. Tory shoes. Oh, what do you think I'm gonna do when I get to Labour? When I'm going into Labour, you won't be there. Elect a guy with the girls next door. What are the perks of Martin? So I'm here for the money, two for the crown. Give it all up, Mr. Gorgeous, we love ya. Just give it up, mister. Give it up, this Prime Ministership. We don't want you to win. So, if you can write 3 acts of Parliament for the liberalisation of democracy, maybe you can enter, providing you hit the rod in the right place. And Black Rod came along, and sought the wisdom that was going to pronounce this fury. Trust the copper anymore, you know. I would rather trust the parrot that is wearing the black tie, the skirt, the emperor's cuff, or the glasses of Walsingham, the industrial spy. A million miles for one of those smiles, but legislate about a smile would be very hard for an underling or a chancellor to ever consider in the light of the great Führer Adolf Hitler, who was appointed Chancellor of Germany in January 1933. And so I was a fool who tried to get in Parliament. Though they spake wisdom, these people had the mind of a lamb to the slaughter. not understand ethics, torment, you only know how to legislate again. And though I know, it's never freedom. It may be foolish to say what it is, but in Parliament there is only rules and regulations and red tape. Who you are, sir? Well, I'm the Mayor of London, aren't I? Jesus, you are not Hitler, you are not Joan of Arc. I cannot prove one of these things, sir. Madam Speaker, how dost thou know what lambs thou bringest today to thy slaughter? Those only love. Just love. Just love. They know only love, madam. Other bills, all the other plans, all the other provocations of our policy, the nature of our discontent and what you are going to do and how you can go out and make your own victory. We heard it all before. It's a load of I'm just a rusty vessel who makes love needlessly in behind corridors and rogues' galleries without not wisdom. Elfie. What's it all about? Help me. He can hardly shout. Help me. Chartered course. And chartered each and every byway, way, but more